Welcome to Digitizing the Writing Process. This video was created for EDU 580 Educational Technology. We're going to talk about digitizing the writing process. So we're going to talk about three main aspects of that. We're going to brainstorm with the mobile app EduCreations. This goes on a tablet or an iPad for free from the iTunes Store or from Google Play. Then we're going to move into drafting, revising, and collaborating with Google Docs, which works as part of the Google Office suite in Google Drive. And we're going to spend the most time talking about that because when you're writing and you're following the writing process, you spend the most time drafting, revising, editing, collaborating, and sharing, engaging in the social aspects of the writing process. Finally, we're going to end by talking about presentation online software, Kaggle, which also works in conjunction with Google Drive, should you be interested in that. And I think that's an important section of the writing process to talk about because presentation and publication are so frequently neglected when we talk about the writing process. But the first thing we're going to talk about, of course, is brainstorming, and we're going to do that through EduCreations, which is a mobile app. So you download this for free onto your iPad or tablet, and when you do, this is the icon that's going to pop up on your iPad or tablet. I do this with the iPad. When you go through the desktop version, this is what the login screen looks like. You go ahead and log in the top right-hand corner, you press where it says, in this case, Welcome Christy, and you will be invited to create a presentation. When you do so, this is the presentation you're going to get to create. It's pretty simple. This is an interactive whiteboard. Your editing tools are in the top left-hand corner. Your presentation tools are in the top left-hand corner, or the right-hand corner. As you can see here, I'm using the interactive section of the whiteboard. I'm typing, I'm zooming in and out, and this is going to be about brainstorming. So if, for example, I were going to make this a full-on presentation, this would be called, perhaps, the interactive whiteboard and brainstorming. And there are a lot of great things you can do with EduCreations besides brainstorming. So first, checks for understanding in a 1-to-1, 2-to-1 classroom. Do a math problem, have them flip it up. You're checking for understanding just the same way you would use with a whiteboard or a chalkboard. You can also use this for summative assessment. Follow the arrow to that record button. Have students record mini lessons for one another. They're going to learn their information better because you're a better learner once you have been able to teach something. Finally, though, of course, we're going to talk about brainstorming. And that's going to pop up in a minute, and you're going to see that it's in big, bold, capital letters because that's what we're here to talk about. The thing I absolutely love the most about EduCreations is that it's immediately organic, it's personalized, it's interactive. Whereas online mind mapping software like MindMeister or even Kaggle that we're going to talk about later requires you to use the keyboard to interact with your brainstorming, with your mind map. This you can interact with by taking a stylus and pressing it to the screen of your tablet. This simulates writing, and writing is a highly personal activity. There's perhaps no more intimate academic activity than pressing pen to paper, and that's really what I want to simulate with my students when we're brainstorming because that's the way we're really going to get ideas flowing. So that's the first thing I really love about EduCreations. However, there are always going to be those students that are not so much interested in the free-flowing, free-writing mind map. They're really going to like something structured. And when you use the mobile app version of this, you will see that there is a text feature. And those students that are really into structure, your perfectionists, they're going to be able to type directly into EduCreations. They're going to create probably an outline, something a little more structured, something that works better for the Hermione Grangers in your class. The last thing I like about EduCreations is that it's highly user-friendly. Everything you see here is what you get. You record, you edit, you share. That's it. It's super simple. It's so easy. Any millennial can do this. And if we're talking about digitizing the entire writing process, you definitely want to make sure that at least one section of what you're doing is easy to use. So EduCreations is that section. What I have chosen, this is by far the easiest piece of the puzzle here today, because the next thing we're going to talk about is Google Docs, which is embedded in the Google Drive suite, which while I do think it's user-friendly, it comes with a lot of bells and whistles. It can be fairly overwhelming, but EduCreations is not overwhelming. It's very simple, it's easy to use, and your students are going to immediately like it because of those things. But now we're going to talk about Google Docs. We're going to move from the drafting part of the writing process, from the brainstorming part of the writing process into drafting, revising, editing, collaborating, and sharing. And you can do all that through Google Docs, which is used through Google Drive. If you have a Gmail, you can do this. Go to the Google homepage, sign in on the top right corner. All you have to do is sign in just the way you would sign into your Gmail. This should look like your familiar login page. Do all this. Log in. Once you're logged in, go to that right corner. Here's your drop-down menu. Go to the third row. Pick the green, yellow, and blue triangle that says Drive. This is what my Drive looks like. I use Drive extensively. I keep my personal files and my professional files in Drive. Drive is a cloud-based system. It's like having a flash drive in the sky, a file cabinet full of all of your work in the sky saved automatically for you. It's super easy to access. If you have a Wi-Fi connection, you can do this. You can do this on a tablet or you can do it on a computer. And in my mind, the thing that separates Google Docs from other free online document creation programs like Paper or Draft or quip is that it comes with the support of the Google Drive family. To create in Google Drive, simply go to the left-hand corner, pick the Create button, you're going to pick the document. You're going to see that you can create a variety of different things here, but we're most interested in the document today. That's the thing that we really want to create. And the documents you create in Google Docs are very similar to those documents you create in Microsoft Word. But like I said a minute ago, the thing that separates Google Docs from other online cloud-based systems, particularly like Draft and Quip, is that you come with the entire support of the rest of the Google Docs, Google Drive family, and you get those presentations, you get those spreadsheets, those forms, those images, those drawings. It's very similar to Microsoft Word, except that it democratizes the process. This is free for anyone, so if you have students who don't have the Microsoft Word suite at home, they can do this easily, and you don't get kids using text editor and sending you ODT documents that are impossible to open and difficult and frustrating to work with. So this is a great alternative to that. When you do get into Google Drive and you open that doc, you press Create. This is the doc. This should look very familiar to anyone who's ever used Microsoft Word. You have all your editing features at the top of the page. You can see your paper. You've got your share button in the top corner. Once my students have a document open, the first thing I ask that they do is go to the left-hand corner and click where it says Untitled Document. Give this document a title. Maybe it's a rough draft. If I can get them to put the name and the date in there as well, that's awesome. Once they press that share button in the top right-hand corner, they're going to get this box. It's going to pop up. You see where you can invite people? That's where you're going to type in emails. You can type in 1 email or you can type in 10 emails, and you can immediately invite people to help you with your work. Type it in there. Once you have shared something with others, they can come in and help you by making comments or collaborating on your document. Depends on how much help you want. I do want to point out to you that you are the author of this document. You created it. It belongs to you. So you get to say how much people help you with your document. Can they edit it? Can they comment on it? Can they only view it? I ask my students to make sure that I am able to edit their documents because then I can see their revision history, and that's something that I find very valuable as a teacher. Though usually if they're sharing with their peers, I suggest that they only make canned comments, unless they're making a truly collaborative document, maybe a group presentation. But if this is for a paper, I definitely want usually my classmates to only be able to comment on what I'm doing because I want their suggestions, but I don't want them to take over my paper, and sometimes high school students don't know where to draw the line. Once you share with someone else in their own drive, your document will appear in the Shared With Me section. They open that document in the Share With Me section, and they can go in and press the comment button at the top of the page, and they can begin leaving you comments and giving you some help on your work. So once we get into the commenting section, you highlight whatever word you want to comment on. I've selected the word here, and you begin to type a comment. Once you press done on that comment, it's live in real time. The next thing I really like about Google Drive is that I go to the File menu, I can see your revision history, which will appear in a pane on the far right-hand side of the paper. When my students are writing, if I see a lot of activity in that revision pane, I know they're legitimately engaged in revising. If I see very little activity in the revision pane, I know they're not actually engaging in healthy revision and they're just doing surface minute edits. Of course, one of the great things about Google Drive is that everything is saved for you, and that's what is highlighted here. There's no need for flash drives or printed copies. Everything gets saved for you. So there's a lot students can do with Drive, and because they have the support of the Google Suite, they can do a tremendous amount here. That commenting, that revision pane really emphasizes the importance of going through a progressive written process, that this isn't a one-time action. Writing grows and becomes better through forced improvement and through socializing about writing, because writing is a social activity, reading is a conversation. And to really emphasize the conversational nature of reading and the social nature of writing and of learning, we move to the last section of the writing process, which is presentation or publication. And I'm going to talk about doing that with Coggle. So what you see here is the Coggle brand, and this is an online mind mapping software. It's a lot like MindMeister, but the thing I like about it over MindMeister is that it's easier to use. It's not as restrictive, and it's super easy to share with, which is something that is really important to me. I like it perhaps better than Glogster because you can see a train of thought. I want to see how my students got from point A to point B, and I want them to be able to communicate that to others. So that's why I really like this particular piece of software. I also like it better than Infogram because you can do the visual and the written, and there's no limit on how much writing you can include. So that's something I like as well. Plus, you're going beyond just the infogram and getting just the surface in details, because I want a lot of information for my students when they're in the publication presentation section of a project. Once you log into Coggle, and I suggest you use this with a desktop or a laptop, this is the home page you see. Log in, then you're going to come to your first creation. As you can see on the left-hand side, you've got all your shortcuts. Some people use these a lot, some people don't. I think this is pretty easy to use. If you can see, you've got where it says you're creating your new Coggle, and you've got the arrows where it says click here. All you have to do is follow the directions. Click here. It'll add an arm to the mind map for you. If you edit the arm, you can add words to the arm. You can copy and paste in a picture. All you have to do is follow the directions that are laid out here before you. So I've added an arm here. You can see where there's a text box there. I've added a second arm to the arm that already existed. Now if I want to go in and add more information, I just hover and I get this wheel of options. I can add another arm, and hopefully Coggle is going to go ahead and color code that for me. So this becomes a visual and linguistic experience for me, which is very valuable, I think, for all of our learners because we have such a variety of learners. They are physically doing this, they are typing it, and then they're going to go through and read it for one another. So they're engaging a variety of literacies. The last thing I want my students to do when we're presenting is they're going to share their information by going into the top right-hand corner of this screen. You share and you get this box. This is by far the easiest software I have seen for mind maps to share. This is the final presentation.